Chapter 4: Living Our Highest Purpose Through the Gift of Pure Motivation. A story is told about a priest who was confronted by a soldier while he was walking down a road in pre-revolutionary Russia. The soldier, aiming his rifle at the priest, commanded, "Who are you? Where are you going?" Unfazed, the priest calmly replied, "How much do they pay you?" Somewhat surprised, the soldier responded, 25 kopecks a month?" The priest paused and in a deeply thoughtful manner said, "I have a proposal for you. I'll pay you 50 kopecks each month if you stop me here every day and challenge me to respond to those same two questions. Who are you? Where are you going?" This is a traditional tale. Now let's hear what George Bernard Shaw has to say. This is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, the being thoroughly worn out before you are thrown on the scrap heap, the being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. Meaning, fulfillment, and the gift of pure motivation. This chapter is broadly divided into two sections. The first section addresses the perennial human quest for meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. It starts with the fundamental question, "Who am I?" as a prelude to discovering meaning and significance in life. After all, we cannot find our purpose in life without first knowing who we really are. More importantly, in order to arrive somewhere, one has to know precisely about one's current position. Analogically, in order to use a map, the first thing we need to know is where we are. The opening story underscores the importance of self-knowledge in our search for self-fulfillment. This section draws upon the ideas of Maslow, Frankfurt, and Csikszentmihalyi, the three paragons of human potential, to inform the search for meaning and fulfillment. The second section deals with the first gift of highly fulfilled people, the gift of pure motivation. This gift teaches us that before every action, we should check mentally our motivation for the action. Pure motivation? Pure motivation signifies that whatever we do, our intention behind every action should be motivated by the desire to help, to benefit others without expecting anything in return. If we are helping others in order to benefit ourselves as means to our end, then it becomes a business, transaction, and our motivation ceases to be pure. The quest for meaning and fulfillment. We are born to be fulfilled. That's how nature intends us all to be. Each of us has a very unique role to play and a distinctive mission to accomplish. That is our silent pact with the universe. Unless we fulfill this purpose, this mission, we are not given to experience the deepest joy of fulfillment that life has to offer, no matter how successful, rich, or famous we may be. Fulfillment is an inner glow, an inner peace that is attained when we serve the universe joyfully, diligently, and selflessly. When we serve the universe and its creation selflessly, in return, it shares its bounties with us abundantly. But we have to first realize our utter selflessness, our nothingness. Story time. I am nothing. At a court banquet, everyone was sitting according to their rank, waiting for the king to appear. A simply dressed man came in and took a seat higher than everyone else. The Prime Minister demanded that he identify himself. Are you the advisor of a great king? No, I rank above a royal advisor. Are you a Prime Minister? No, higher than a Prime Minister. Are you a king in disguise? No, my rank is higher than a king. Then you must be some saint. No, I'm above that. Then you must be God, the Prime Minister said sarcastically. There is nothing higher than God, he shouted. The stranger replied calmly, I am nothing. The foregoing story splendidly illustrates that only those who have achieved a certain measure of humility are able to sit at an elevated position, symbolically speaking, where they can view the greater common good, the well-being of all beings clearly. It is all about orientation and a viewpoint. Otherwise, the ulterior self-motive will always be lurking behind every act of overt kindness. And every step toward self-centeredness is a step away from self-fulfillment. All overt and covert acts of ostentatious kindness may provide us temporary self-satisfaction, but they are unable to soothe our spirit with deep fulfillment in the long run. Only when our actions are infused with pure motivation are our feet securely planted on the path that leads to lasting inner peace, joy, and fulfillment. The quest for self-knowledge. The quest for self-knowledge and self-fulfillment is as old as civilization. In the Western philosophical tradition, Greeks were the first thinkers to pursue these values in a systematic manner. Socrates' popular dictum, "Know thyself," is familiar to all of us, and Plato's well-known refrain that an unexamined life is not worth living is also a great place to begin our quest for self-knowledge. In the Eastern tradition, this quest dates back at least to the time of the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and the writings of the Buddha and Lao Tzu. The Upanishads represent the earliest stirrings of human spirit to understand the self, the truth of ourself, and its relation to the ultimate reality, the truth of the universe. The Bhagavad Gita contains the essence of the Vedas, the books of knowledge, and teaches the paths of selfless action, that is, Karma Yoga, and devotion as preparation to the sublime path of self-knowledge. In Chapter 8, which discusses the gift of selfless service, we will explore the doctrine of Karma Yoga as a means to selfless service and as the alchemy of sagehood. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness and Lao Tzu's exhortation for living in harmony with the Tao are examples of humanity's early attempts to live a life of self-awareness, meaningfulness, and mastery. The gift of presence will draw upon the practice of mindfulness. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, these questions preoccupied several psychologists and existential philosophers such as Nietzsche, Adler, Sartre, and Camus. Likewise, Several humanistic psychologists such as Carl Jung, Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow, Rollo May, Erich Fromm, Roberto Ascioli, Fritz Perls, and Viktor Frankl have variously explored the question of self-actualization and personal meaning, fulfillment and mastery. More recently, Seligman and Cecil Maslany pioneered positive psychology, which is the systematic study of the human strengths and virtues that make human life more fulfilling. By critical acclaim, the two most fundamental questions we can ask are, who am I? And what am I doing here? These two questions are incorporated in the question, what is the purpose of my life? Why bother to know ourselves? The reader may be wondering at this stage why one should even bother to know oneself or musing. Don't I already know myself? What is the practical utility of these questions after all? Broadly speaking, there are two types of people: those who know their purpose and those who do not yet know their purpose. Sooner or later, we all face life situations that challenge us to ask these questions and prod us to reflect on our true significance of life. It is vital to address these questions at the outset, since everything that truly matters in life depends on our response to these two fundamental questions. Without knowing oneself, it seems, one cannot figure out one's purpose in life. For how can we find our purpose in life without first knowing who we really are? Thus, we may say that the very first purpose of life is to know oneself. Almost 2,600 years ago, Socrates framed it succinctly as know thyself. The intervening 26 centuries have not attenuated the gravity of this question. It is amazing, or shall we say, a bit ironic, to ponder the fact that with our entire information deluge and material progress, we have not yet been able to satisfactorily address this fundamental point. Could it be that the real answer to the enigmatic question, who am I, lies within ourselves and not outside? Socrates, however, did not care to elaborate precisely on how to go about this search. One common pitfall here is to take Socrates' injunction to know thyself to mean to know oneself intellectually or emotionally. Those in the know have repeatedly pointed out that one has to know oneself at the experiential level, in the very depth of one's being, exactly as one really is, with diligence and without any masks whatsoever. And this requires some serious work on oneself that calls for self-insight, sincerity, courage, patience, and discernment. It seems that the faculty of self-awareness serves as both the cause and effect of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is born of self-reflection and blossoms as a certain unmistakable quality of self-awareness that accompanies and pervades everything one does. A sort of glow that illuminates all our activities. This condition is often referred to as the faculty of mindfulness. One may ask at this stage, know oneself at what level? At the body, physical level, or at the mind, intellectual level? Or is there something more lurking behind these intuitively obvious categories? In our common usage, we tend to refer to these as my body, my mind, and my intellect. We do not say I body, I mind, I intellect. This is not just a linguistic contrivance or convenience, but a fundamental distinction that goes to the very root of who we are. To refer to our body as my body and our mind as my mind is to say that I am not my body nor my mind. For example, we are used to saying my body is strong or weak, or my mind is sharp or clear, etc. In other words, I and my body or mind are two separate things. After all, I experience my body and mind. It is a fundamental law that I am different from whatever I experience. This intuiting of separation between I and my body, mind, senses, apparatus is sometimes referred to as the awareness of I amness, the awareness of our innermost being or presence. Come to think of it, this feeling of I amness is our only true capital. Everything else is either borrowed or construed knowledge or information. That we exist is the only thing we know, beyond any shadow of doubt. For no one can deny one's own existence. To say that I do not exist is illogical, for it presumes that I had to exist in order to claim that I do not exist. So, this awareness reverses the Cartesian logic of I think, therefore I am. It is not that I think, therefore I am. Rather, I am, therefore I think. This is the most essential point to grasp in approaching the question, who am I? It is also a master key that opens the door to the abode of meaning and fulfillment. Mindful moments, searching for our sweet spot. What are my most vital strengths? What am I most naturally good at? What are my innate gifts? What activity gives the fullest expression to my innate strengths or gifts? How often do I feel a sense of joy during the day? What will I continue doing if I win a lottery? What would I like to be known for? My most significant contribution, my legacy. It is important to bear in mind that our search has two aspects, as it were, internal and external. At one level, the search for our true nature has to take place within, that is, in the innermost recesses of our soul. This is the seeking part of our search. Yet, at another level, we have to engage ourselves fully in the humdrum of life, without armed now with self-knowledge and awareness. This is the sharing part of our search. Thus, the two words that capture the essence of our quest and speak admirably of our purpose of life are seeking and serving. By seeking perennially who we truly are and serving selflessly, we may redeem our existence and be fulfilled. Self-actualization, peak experience, and being values. As a celebrated prophet of human potential, Maslow believed that the realization of one's total potential to be the ultimate goal of all humankind. He presented a taxonomy of 5 types of needs, starting with physical needs and culminating in the need for self-actualization. In his later research, Maslow enlarged the list of basic needs to include a still higher category of needs, called meta-needs. He called the ultimate values sought by self-actualizing people as being values, or B-values. These values were mentioned again and again in his research by self-actualizing people, or by other people to describe their peak experience. According to Maslow, these are comprised of the following attributes: wholeness, perfection, completion, justice, aliveness, richness, simplicity, beauty, goodness, uniqueness, effortlessness, playfulness, truth, honesty, self-sufficiency, and meaningfulness. Later, Maslow reclassified needs into D needs and B needs, with their correlates deficiency motivation and growth motivation. The physiological, security, belonging, and esteemed needs may be termed as deficiency needs or D needs, since they are activated by deficiency. Self-actualization needs and the B needs may be called growth needs, since they represent not so much of a deficiency as an unfolding of all those wonderful possibilities that lie deep within each human being, waiting to express themselves. Towards the end of his life, Maslow went beyond even self-actualization. He considered self-transcendence to be our deepest need and highest aspiration. What holds us back from achieving true greatness? Like a true prophet of human potential, Maslow believed that we have unused and undeveloped capacities. Now, why would these possibilities, present in all, actualize themselves in only a few? Maslow wrestled with the question all his life. One impediment to growth, he considered, the fear of one's own greatness, or running away from one's own best talents. I have found it easy enough to demonstrate this to my students simply by asking, which one of you in this class hopes to write the great American novel, or to be a senator, or governor, or president? Who wants to be Secretary General of the United Nations, or a great composer? Who aspires to be a saint, like Schweitzer perhaps? Who among you will be a great leader? Generally, everybody starts giggling, blushing, and squirming until I ask, if not you, then who else? And in the same way, as I push my graduate students towards these higher levels of aspiration, I'll say, what great book are you now secretly planning to write? The easiest way to boost self-esteem, according to Maslow, is to become a part of something important, something bigger that transcends narrow personal limitations. Maslow held that all self-actualizing people have a cause they believe in, a vocation they are devoted to. Self-actualizing people are, without one single exception, involved in a cause outside their own skin, in something outside of themselves. When they say, my work, they mean their mission in life. Just having an important task is not enough. The self-actualizing person must also do it well. Substandard work is not a good path to self-actualization. Self-actualization means working to do the thing well that one wants to do. One must strive to be the very best in whatever one undertakes. Maslow considered this striving to be the best one is capable of becoming, the sine qua non of human happiness. In Buddhist literature, great emphasis is placed on choosing the right kind of work. One of the 8 components of righteous living in Buddhism is called right livelihood, the kind of livelihood that fosters self-fulfillment, inner peace, and contentment. Maslow also believed that it is difficult to conceive of a feeling of satisfaction or self-pride if one were doing work that is bogus or shoddy. It must be noted that self-actualization, according to Maslow, is not a matter of one great stride. Rather, it is a matter of degrees, little victories, won and accumulated one by one over time. Self-mastery assumes self-understanding and self-knowledge. It also assumes a certain awareness of our true purpose in life. It requires hard work, patience, perseverance to stay the course. It also requires clear articulation of our aim in life. Without formulating our aim, we drift aimlessly amidst the sea of life, like a ship without rudder. Knowing who we are and what our purpose is, therefore, are the 2 fundamental questions that capture the essence of self-knowledge and personal meaning. The significance of meaning in life. What sustains us in the wake of life's toughest challenges? What sustains us in the wake of life's toughest challenges? What keeps us from falling apart emotionally amidst life's most trying situations? What keeps us going in face of the inevitable suffering that life brings us through, such as illness, deprivation, and death? It is the knowledge, says Frankl, that human life under any circumstances never ceases to have a meaning, and that this infinite meaning of life includes suffering or dying, privation, and death. Now, Frankl was no armchair psychologist. He was the survivor of 4 concentration camps. In his classic work titled Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl provides the inside story of a concentration camp and presents a concrete guide to support his unshakable view that life holds a potential meaning under any conditions, even the most miserable ones. Could the trials and tribulations be seen as opportunities? As occasions life presents us with to help us discover and realize our true destiny, to fulfill our true purpose in life? Well, it depends upon how we approach them. Seen as occasions for self-growth and fulfillment, these challenges are opportunities that provide us the raw material to fashion the garment of our life. Taken with the disempowering "why me" attitude, however, they can dampen our spirit and stifle our soul. Frankl reminds us that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. When we cannot change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And it is this spiritual freedom, which cannot be taken away, that makes life meaningful and purposeful. Frankl concludes that there is nothing in the world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help one to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is a meaning in one's life. He who has a why to live for, said Nietzsche, can bear almost anyhow. Frankl finds existential vacuum, This feeling of utter meaninglessness to be widespread in modern times and considers it to be the root cause of depression, aggression, and addiction in the modern Western society. For Frankl, every act of responsibility is an act of self-actualization. This emphasis on personal responsibility forms the very essence of Frankl's philosophy and ethical imperative. Live as if you were living for the second time and had acted as wrongly the first time as you were about to act now. He further clarifies, ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of life is, but rather, he must recognize that it is he who is asked. In the final reckoning, we are not in the pursuit of happiness, but rather in search of a reason to be happy, aspiring to be worthy of our happiness. Living our highest purpose in life. Our highest purpose is the true embodiment of who we are at the very core of our being. It is the most authentic expression of our innermost nature, our true self. We are at our creative best when we are in tune with our highest self. It represents our inner truth that seeks expression through myriad activities as life is happening to us. In Sanskrit, this truth of our innermost being is expressed by the word Swadharma, one's deepest, innermost nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the most revered Hindu scripture, we are told, better one's own dharma, however imperfect, than the dharma of another perfectly performed. Indian sage Ramana Maharishi said, "Be as you are." In the same vein, the great Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, in his book Tales of Hasidism, quotes Rabbi Zusia, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' They will ask me, 'Why were you not Zusia?'" These examples tell us that only by being true to our real self can we fulfill our destiny, our true purpose in life. We cannot have fulfillment any other way. We may not be always aware of our true purpose, but it is always there, ready to sustain us through the toughest challenges of our life. Only by discovering our unique gifts and talents can we hope to polish them and share them with our fellow beings. How can we discover our true purpose in life that gives value and meaning to our existence? There is no direct path or ready-made answer to this vital question. There is no sure map or formula that can lead us to our life's true purpose, nor can it be handed over to us by someone else. Besides, nobody can spare us the journey, the alchemic process of self-discovery and transformation, leading to the unfolding and fulfillment of this purpose. God flow? Csikszentmihalyi has been studying the psychology of optimal experiences, that is, flow, in various settings for the past 35 years. Flow refers to a state of total immersion, effortless concentration, and rapt enjoyment in an activity in which one loses any sense of space, time, and self. According to Csikszentmihalyi, flow represents a state where skills required to perform a particular task match evenly with the challenges presented by the task. He explains, "The metaphor of flow is one that many people have used to describe the sense of effortless action they feel in moments that stand out as the best in their lives. Athletes refer to it as being in the zone, religious mystics as being in ecstasy, artists and musicians as aesthetic rapture. Athletes, mystics, and artists do very different things when they reach flow, yet their descriptions of the experience are remarkably similar. Flow involves being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away. Time flies. Every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one. Like playing jazz, your whole being is involved, and you are using your skills to the utmost. Csikszentmihalyi identifies the following key elements accompanying flow. Number 1. A challenging activity that requires skills. Number 2. The merging of action and awareness. Number 3. Clear goals and immediate feedback. Number 4. Concentration on the task at hand. Number 5. The paradox of control. Number 6. The loss of self-consciousness. Number 7. Transformation of the sense of time. Life founded on purpose. Once we have found our highest purpose, it can stay in the background as a substratum, a raison d'être for everything we do or undertake. The following story exemplifies this concept very nicely. Dividing 17 horses among 3 children. The case of the 18th horse. A father left a large inheritance of land, money, gold, and 17 horses, to be divided as half, 1/3, and 1/9 among 3 children. Everything else got divided easily, but they were confused how to divide the horses. In desperation, they contacted an old friend of their father. He came riding on his horse and offered to add his to the herd. To make the total 18 in all. Now they could easily divide it in half, 1/3, 1/9 as 9 plus 6 plus 2, which equals to 17. The friend still had his horse. Our true purpose in life is like the 18th horse in the story, without which life has no meaning. Life presents itself to us as a series of challenges. With self-knowledge and the courage to be, we can rise to meet these challenges squarely. The meaning of life, said Ouspensky, it is eternal search. And only in that search can we find something truly new. By undertaking this search, we plant our feet firmly on the path that leads to the full blooming of our potential, to self-fulfillment, the fulfillment of our true purpose and mission in life. The gift of pure motivation. Lao Tzu says, simply see that you are at the center of the universe and accept all things and beings as part of your infinite body. When you perceive that an act done to another is done to yourself, you have understood the great truth. Where has the pure motivation gone? A personal experience. Growing up in a small town in North India, I would pass by a doctor's office every day on my way to high school. This doctor seemed to be the only physician in our town and hence had a very busy practice. Ours was one large joint family, with all 3 generations living happily under one roof. One day, when I came back from school, I found out that my grandmother had just had a stroke. She must have been around 85 then, and was in relatively good health. There she lay unconscious, with everyone gathered around her bed. As soon as I walked in, my maternal uncle asked me to hurry and get the doctor. In India, it is not uncommon for a doctor to come to people's homes for an extra fee to prescribe medicine. I rushed to doctor's office and requested him to come with me to our house right away. Within minutes, I found myself walking beside the doctor on the way to our house, carrying his briefcase. As soon as we walked in, everybody made room for the doctor to examine my grandma. The doctor just took one look at her and said, "She's gone." She was not breathing and there was no pulse. No further diagnosis was necessary. As I walked back with the doctor to his office, there was a grave silence between both of us. Before I bade him goodbye, he turned around and said, "Do not forget to send my fee." I was stunned. As I walked back to my home, thoughts kept rushing through my disturbed mind. Is that all he had to say about my grandma? We were going to send him his fee anyway. Why did he have to remind me about this? He could have also said, "I'm so sorry," or something like that. No compassion? What happened to the Hippocratic Oath? This was my first exposure to the importance and necessity of practicing pure motivation in everything we do, and under all circumstances. Otherwise, one may be outwardly engaged in a noble profession and still be internally engaged in a self-centered mission. At every turn, our life provides us opportunities for practicing both pure and impure motivation in what we do. When we act from the stance of "what is in it for me," we are operating from an impure motivation. And when we act with a view to benefit others, to help others, our motivation is considered pure and unselfish, regardless of what we do and its outcome. The importance of practicing pure motivation. Since all conscious behavior has a motive, we begin at the beginning, namely with the gift of pure motivation. Let's take 2 examples to illustrate the importance of pure motivation. In the first example, a wealthy man is going to a bank to deposit a large sum of cash. He's stopped by a fugitive in the parking lot and is forced to hand over the cash. During the fight, the fugitive stabs the rich man and runs away with cash. The rich man dies immediately. In the second case, a surgeon is preparing to perform open heart surgery on a patient. The surgeon also uses a knife to operate upon the patient. Unfortunately, the patient dies during the operation. In both examples, someone ends up dying. The outcome is the same. Yet, the fugitive and the surgeon were acting from 2 entirely different motives. In the first case, the intention was to harm, whereas in the second case, the intention was obviously to help. So the purity of motivation makes all the difference in finding significance in life. Whereas the success paradigm may argue that ends justify means. Significance is about means justifying means, and ends justifying ends. Modern science tells us that, from the standpoint of our brain activity, there is no difference between hitting a person and merely thinking about the act. Our brain's limbic system, the part of our brain that is responsible for controlling motor function, releases all the muscle energy that would be required to actually hit someone just by thinking about it. Our brain just cannot tell the difference between thinking about hitting someone and actually doing it. However, based on the above observation, the Buddha would add that if we have been thinking about hitting someone, its effect on our happiness will be similar to actually hitting someone. This works both ways, that is, for bad intentions as well as good intentions. This works both ways, that is, for bad intentions as well as good intentions. Suppose you are getting off the freeway and you see a poor person asking for some spare change for lunch. As soon as you try to reach for your wallet to help this person, the light turns green and you have to go quickly without being able to give this person any money. Gurdjieff, a Russian mystic, comments that since consciousness is interconnected, someone will stop by later and help this person. By your mere intention to help this person, you have triggered a series of events in the universe. So to speak, that would finally result in someone actually helping this person with money for lunch. This is how powerful intentions are. Therefore, our intentions are very important. When we act from the pure intention of helping someone, we are in fact helping the universe. The wisdom traditions have known this secret all along, as expressed in the following set of refrains. Mindful moments. Your thoughts control your destiny. Watch your thoughts. They become words. Watch your words. They become actions. Watch your actions. They become habits. Watch your habits. They become your character. Watch your character. It becomes your destiny. The best rationale for practicing pure motivation. The operation of the law of karma perhaps presents the best rationale for practicing the gift of pure motivation. The moment we commit to any action, the universal laws take over and process it according to its proper motivation. In its simplistic form, this dynamic is generally presented as the law of action and reaction, or popularly as what goes around comes around. Yet, it is a highly developed principle of self-purification designed to put the seeker right on the path that leads to self-realization. When our actions are dedicated to a higher principle, or a higher being, instead of being motivated by mere personal gain, they act as a purifying force to enable us to work selflessly for the benefit of all beings. This, in turn, prepares the heart to receive and the mind to understand. The subtler spiritual teachings that are beyond the ken of an acquisitive mind that is always busy with the business of what is in it for me. Indian philosophy takes the doctrine of karma to its utmost development, where it is seen as a highly sophisticated spiritual practice called Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga emphasizes proper action and proper attitude toward action. Under this scheme, the propriety of an action is not measured according to its capacity for giving material gain, which is incidental anyway, but according to its capacity for harnessing inner growth. It is a matter of common experience that the attitude with which an action is performed can change the quality of our action, as well as the quality of our response to the outcome of an action. Therefore, attitude is at least as important as the action itself. All the more reason to practice pure motivation. Pure motivation. What is in it for me? The listener must have realized by now that the moment we ask the question, "What is in it for me?" our motivation ceases to be pure. As stated earlier, the whole idea about the practice of pure motivation is to act with the intention of helping others without expecting anything in return. This goes against our perennial conditioning that all actions are motivated by some desire to benefit the doer. Otherwise, why would someone act in the first place? Many spiritual traditions of the world provide ample guidance in this regard. By and large, they urge us to dedicate all our actions to a higher being or principle. For example, the Bhagavad Gita teaches the gospel of selfless action in an oft-quoted verse as follows: "Your right is to work only, but never to its fruits. Let not the fruits of action be your motive, nor let your attachment be to inaction." The Gita urges us to do all actions selflessly, nishkam karma, for the unification and for the well-being of all beings, without anxiety about the outcome of our actions. It further exhorts us to dedicate the fruits of our actions to the divine. Even if we take the spiritual import of this teaching out of the picture, it still remains a highly pragmatic teaching to live by. For when we focus too intently on the results of our actions, we are not able to give our best to the task at hand. The following story admirably sums up the practical wisdom of this teaching. Once, a young student approached a renowned piano teacher for lessons. He came from a far-off country to learn the art of piano from this famous teacher. After a couple of weeks, the student asked the teacher how long it will take him to master the art of piano. The teacher replied, "Good 4 to 5 years. "But I have an ailing parent back home to take care of," explained the student. "How long will it take, in this case, for me to finish my lessons?" The teacher replied, 10 years. "You do not understand, sir," objected the student. "I really have to finish my lessons as quickly as possible, so I can go back and look after my ailing father and his business." "In that case, 20 years, answered the teacher. The student was quite perplexed. He wondered how inconsiderate of the teacher to keep on doubling the time required every time he had expressed some new urgency to finish quickly. He asked the teacher the reason why. "Well, because when you are more focused on finishing lessons quickly, the results, than the lessons, you take much longer to learn," replied the teacher calmly. So, what is the lesson you've learned? It takes us longer to learn when we are too much obsessed with speed. If we reflect deeply about our actions, we realize that we do not really have any control over the results of our actions anyway. So a disinterested, detached action is all we can aspire to. Viewed in this light, the Gita presents a scientifically advanced and psychologically practical teaching of the highest order. Other spiritual traditions also emphasize the virtue of dedicating our work to a higher power. For example, The great German composer J.S. Bach treated all his compositions as offerings to God. He called most of his studies for the keyboard exercises for the spirit. He even named one of his compositions a musical offering. It is quite natural for writers and artists to feel this way, since most of them consider their finest creations to be divinely inspired, with the artist acting only as a mediating instrument in divine hands. Igor Stravinsky is reported to have said this of his finest creation. I had only my ear to help me. I heard and I wrote what I heard. I am the vessel through which the rite of spring passed. Below is an excerpt from the handwritten portion of Leo Tolstoy's will that he wrote 20 years before his death. In this document, he reflects upon his life work as follows. Furthermore, and in particular, I ask all people, near and far, not to praise me. I know they will do so because they have done so in my lifetime, in the most unseemly way. But if they want to study my writings, let them look carefully at those passages, in them in which I know the power of God spoke through me, and make use of them for their own lives. There have been times when I felt I was becoming the bearer of God's will. Tolstoy admits that despite his acutely perceived shortcomings, the divine inspiration has sometimes passed through him, and that those have been the happiest moments of his life. When our work becomes an offering, and we are able to set our little self aside to enable the higher self to take over, we touch the depths of real existence, where we experience a glimpse of true happiness in a most unexpected way. When we allow the divine inspiration to operate through us in this manner, we become faithful instruments in the hands of God, a vessel through which our creative undertakings pass, and we let ourselves be fashioned by the divine will, a higher creative principle in which all actions are at best impersonal and anonymous. We become in tune with the infinite. Chinese sage Lao Tzu captures this state, a state that represents action in inaction, through two characters, Wu and Wei. All masters of poetry, as well as the martial arts, know this very well. Concluding story and remarks. The difference between the window glass and the mirror glass. Once, a very rich and stingy man came to his Rabbi to ask for a special blessing. The Rabbi sat and talked with him for a while and then, all of a sudden, took the man's hand and brought him to the window. "Tell me, what do you see?" asked the Rabbi. The man answered, "I see people out on the street." The Rabbi brought him a mirror. Now what do you see?" he asked. "Now I see myself," the man replied. The Rabbi said, "Now, let me explain the meaning of my actions. Both the window and the mirror are made of glass. The window is a clear glass, but the mirror has a layer of silver on it. When you look through the clear glass, you can see people. But when you cover it with silver, you no longer see other people, but only see yourself." The foregoing story has great implications for leaders. A wise person, well versed in the ways of the life and leadership, once told me, "When you're going up in an organizational hierarchy, be nice to people around you. You will surely meet them when you will be coming down. Modesty is probably the most important leadership quality that is honored more in breach than in observance in modern leaders. Organizational arrogance is the most fatal flaw that soon leads to cluelessness and triggers derailment of leaders. It is very easy to feel insulated and indulge in ego trips. One should always be on one's guard against such tendencies. Outpourings of a heart gladdened with gratitude. I am grateful for this wonderful gift of precious human birth, for being blessed with good health and a kind, generous heart, for my parents who were kind, loving, and spiritually inclined, for my teachers in life, in history, and in spirit, who sowed in my mind the seeds of insatiable curiosity about things inspired, eternal, and sublime, for sparing me the pangs of acute poverty and pain, with enough by way of food, clothing, and shelter, but not too much to make me proud and vain, blissfully oblivious to life's real purpose and aim, for sparing me from the servitude of transient fame, from trivial pursuits and shifting aims, from dizzy dignities, petty jealousies, and success tame, instead gracing me with the abiding treasure of taste sublime, for the finest in music, literature, and philosophy prime, for granting me best opportunities to study, learn, and travel, for the gift of noble work that I daily cherish and marvel, for my family and my children and my friends, who, despite my incongruities and idiosyncrasies, continue to bear with me kindly with some amends. Though at times I may not have acted in ways worthy of thy grace, yet you have always showered your blessings beyond trace, forgiving my transgressions like a kind parent and a loving sage. Above all, I am deeply grateful for being blessed with an unquenchable yearning for learning, for seeking and sharing stories of thy glory. Sitting here in my study, I am gratefully humbled to muse, O Radiant One, what did I do to deserve all this? What did I do to deserve all this? I seek thy blessings till the end of my days, to serve thy creation in innumerable ways.